Hey Lit lovers, and welcome to this month's episode of Getting Lit, a monthly podcast dedicated to highlighting the diverse lit coming out for the month. I am your host, Lala, and you can find me on Instagram at This Black Girl Reads, and welcome. Welcome to our first episode of 2023. I'm so excited to be back. I've seen you guys listening to the episodes. I've seen all the downloads. I've read your reviews, and of course, I appreciate it so much. I'm happy that you guys have been getting caught up during the little break, and I'm going to read some of your reviews because some of them were very touching, and I appreciate them. So this one is from Jenny in Waterloo. Lala, thanks for this podcast. I've been trying to get more diverse books in my rotation, and you've helped me. Thank you so much for your recommendations. There are so many great ones. Thank you. The next one, this one is from Nikita in Ottawa. Thank you for this podcast. I cannot tell you how many books I've added to my list. I love your energy, and I would love to hear more interviews on the podcast. Keep the books coming. Thank you. Thank you, Nikita, and thank you all of you guys who left a review. I appreciate it. And Nikita, girl, I got you. I hope to have more guests on in 2023, more interviews, and all of that good stuff. So thank you for the feedback. So on today's show, I'll be talking books with my girls Tina and Tamar, the book Loving Sisters from 2T Reads. Since this is the first show back for the new year, today's show will discuss all the lit books that we're looking forward to in 2023. And we'll take a look back at some of the books that were our faves from 2022. So yeah, that's what this episode will be all about. So now it's time to get lit.
So now let's get lit. If you don't know these sisters, you're definitely missing out. Not only do they read and share books, but I love that they share so much Caribbean lit. And I found so many books through them that I just love. They also run a Jamaican Literary Heritage Book Challenge in the month of August that highlights and celebrates Jamaican lit. So hello, Tina and Tamar. Welcome to the Getting Lit podcast.
Hi. Nice to be here having us.
And as I said in the intro, I'm not sure how long I've actually been following you ladies, but I just love your love for Caribbean lit. So I'm just happy to have you guys here. And how did you guys think of like the concept for your page?
So I didn't know there was such a thing as Bookstagram until like maybe 4.5 years ago. For some reason, I was just scrolling For You page on my like personal Instagram, and I saw like a particular girl post a book that I was reading at the time. And so, I clicked on it and whatnot. And then obviously, you're going to get more content like that. And I'm like, and then I was like, Tina, do you know that like people post books on Instagram and they talk about books and all that? And she's like, no. I'm like, we should do that.
And then it was born.
And then it was born. Like we were clueless.
I think that's how it is for all of us. Like we're clueless. And then we find the community and we're like, okay, where have you been all my life?
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yes. I mean, I think, of course, when we started, we like, for some reason, you get the bigger people first, like they get suggested to you. And then you find like your people, like the Caribbean bookstagrammers. And like, we don't see a lot of Canadian bookstagrammers, like compared to like the American audience and stuff like that. But slowly and surely, you're getting a little more Caribbean bookstagrammers, Jamaican, So we found our tribe. All the British bookstagrammers, we love them.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Well, I'm happy that I found you guys because you give me, my background is Jamaican as well, but you guys still suggest so many books that I've never heard of. And I'm just like always taking notes and saving your posts. So thank you for that. And I love your challenge that you do, the Heritage Jamaican Lit.
Yeah, because it started that in 2020, I think. And I'm like, when you look into the background of Jamaican lit, it's like really, really vast. Like even doing our research, like, wow, so many authors that we never heard of. And it's like new authors from the diaspora coming out every year. So it really helps us to discover like new and old like Jamaican, literature. So it's great.
Yeah. Yes. So today we're going to chat about 2022 books that are at the top of our lists that we loved. And then we're going to talk about 2023 books that are coming up that we're excited to read. So we're going to be sharing our favorites with everybody, which is good. I always do a top list every year and I put it out this year. It's always like the best list on my blog. So I'm happy to hear some of your top books as well.
Sure. Just a note, Tina is for the past, year and a half? Tina who's been keeping the account alive because I have a little one now and my reading has like...
That's how it goes, right?
So Tina's been keeping her bookstagram alive.
Keeping it alive.
It was hard to whittle down my favorites of 2022 to 4 books. I read some good books last.
So with that being said, we'll start off with you then, Tina. Like at the top of your list, your first book that you want to share with us.
Oh my God, this one. I hope everybody has read When We Were Birds. It's just such a beautiful book. It's just the way she wrote her characters, the story behind the plot of the book. It was just so good and just so Caribbean, And like, this is what we need. We need more people who will actually look at our folklore and build worlds around our folklore.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this book was just a smash hit for me last year.
That was on my top 10 list as well. So
it was beautiful writing. Yeah, the writing was beautiful.
It was. So do you want to share one?
So this last year, we're in 2023 now. I read a lot of romance on my phone on Libby because it was easy. They tend to be very short and like I can get through them easily. But this one...
Look, that's my book that I was going to talk about too. Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan.
Yes. This was so like touching. Like I could relate to a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I liked how she explored grief and how like different family members deal with grief and how, it can like basically change the trajectory of our lives. And also, therapy and how healing can help us come back to each other, whether that be Yasmin and Josiah or just the family as a whole. I really like that. So even though the subject matter, some of it was hard, I really enjoyed it. And also the female friendships were like really, really good.
They were strong.
I really love the female friendship.
Yeah. That was also my book. So I also loved everything you said. And what I enjoyed too, when I was thinking about why I love this book so much, is sometimes when you think of Black love stories and why relationships don't work, it's always like, okay, this person cheated on this person or this person cheated on this person. I love that their conflict was like they loved each other too much and they couldn't come together to deal with their own shit.
Yeah.
And that's why they separated. And then once they were able to heal, by themselves, they came back together. So it wasn't any outside people or any, drama that is normally associated with why Black love doesn't work, right?
Yeah. It wasn't that they didn't love each other anymore. It was just a thing that happened to them that was so big.
Yes.
And just all encompassing at the time that they just couldn't deal with it. You know what I mean? In a healthy way, which when that happens, there's really no healthy way to deal with that.
Yes. Because people deal with it all in
struggle to get through, and you either get through it or you don't.
Exactly. And I love the fact that they were able to co-parent in a healthy manner.
Yes,
I don't think that is represented as much as it needs to be, right?
Yeah, that was really good.
We do it.
Co-parenting relationship was really good.
Yeah,
I love that. That was very positive.
Tina, back to you since we chose the same one.
All right, the next one I want to talk about is Kekeyi.
You're like on point today. Like that was one of my books. Like I didn't choose it to speak now, but that was on my top 10 for sure.
Yeah. I didn't expect it to be what it was, but it was so well done. And when I read the premise for this, I was like, one of the very first collection of stories that I read in Jamaica when I went to the library for the very first time was a book of Indian mythology. So they had Rama's story in there, right? So reading that one and then going back and thinking, okay, she wasn't really nice, so let's see what this author is going to do. And I like it because a lot of mythology, you know, they like to villainize women. Like they never go into detail of why she did what she did, what was she thinking. And I think that's what Vaishnavi Patel was trying to do here. She definitely wanted to say, what if she was actually doing this for a particular reason?
Yes.
So yeah, and it was very well. I was never bored.
Yeah.
I just kept reading and reading and reading. The character development, the co-parenting, because there is co-parenting in this one, because the king, he has 3 wives and they all end up giving him kids and they raise their kids together. And it was just so good, right? Until whatever happened. You know, so this one definitely had to talk about Kekeyi.
Yes, I love that book as well. And I wasn't expecting to love it because it's not normally a book I would read. I don't know how I got to it, but when I got to it, it was like,
Yeah, sometimes the unexpected treasures are the best ones.
Yeah, right?
Oh my God. So for my second pick, it's going to be Cemetery Boys.
Okay, I've heard of this one.
Yes. Yeah, I've been hearing about it for a couple of years. I'm like, you know what? Let me check it out. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. Yadriel as a character was so sweet, so endearing. I love that he stuck to his guns. In a Latinx family in Los Angeles, their brujas, they take care of a cemetery and their job is to usher spirit, you know, to the other side to make sure that they don't. And he ends up going through, because he's trans, there's conflict among his family about whether or not he should go through the ceremony to get his bruja powers, basically. And he does a ceremony by himself with his best friend, Maritza. Their relationship is their ride or die, like die for each other. And goes to the ceremony, gets, you know, his awareness. And basically, there's a ghost that comes to him, Julian, who died the night before. And so it's they're trying to find Julian's body to reunite his spirit. And just the community, because there's like a lot of different Latinx characters in there from different countries. And it's just so sweet, basically. Even though some of the content is a little scary-ish.
Yeah.
It was sweet. Just the relationships, the friendships, the sense of community and family. It was really, really good.
That one on my list. It's like at the bottom. Yeah, I love YA personally.
Scored, really good.
So my next book is People Person by Candace Carty Williams. Is that one of yours?
No, I DNF'd it.
Really?
I haven't started reading it. I'm not sure.
Okay, so I will say I was turned off of Williams because of Queenie. Like, I wasn't a fan of Queenie. It was okay, but I was like, whatever. But I love this book. It was filled with like family love. It was filled with like culture. It was filled with like, even though we didn't grow together as siblings, we came together as siblings. I love that aspect because like I'm ride or die for my siblings.
Yeah.
And I love the way they came together. I love the way they learned about themselves in the book. And if they didn't come together, they wouldn't have learned certain things about themselves. Yeah. And they all learned stuff about each other that made them love each other as siblings, even though they didn't grow together. I need to convince you.
The issue I had was the premise of why they all came together.
Okay,
the second time around. So, I was trying, Lala. I got so annoyed. I was getting so annoyed with the decisions, and I'm like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand a little bit of, you know, the whys.
I will agree with you at that.
You know, there's the whole race thing, but then I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we making these decisions? Not smart. I might go back and finish it.
Oh, you didn't finish it? I thought you just hated it.
No, I DNF'd it. Like,
oh my goodness.
I did not finish at all. I might go back.
Yes, I think you should go back because I feel like after like that first part where they do all the craziness, it gets like much better as they learn about each other. So I just need to
get through that part.
Yeah, as they learn about each other. And then I love the fact that she focused on the dad, who was like a hot mess, but it brought to like it just made me think of like so many men are a hot mess like him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like
Jamaican men at that.
yes, and sometimes we need to highlight these things because he has all these kids. He doesn't like care what's happening with them, but then he takes it upon himself on one day to bring them all together so they know each other. Like that's
Yeah, because he doesn't want them to accidentally get involved with each other. I'm like, really? That's your main concern, sir?
what? I found that part so hilariously crazy because it's so accurately true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because
Right?
it might happen. Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
But I'm
Sure.
like that's the main reason. Not that you want your children to know each other, that you want to be in their lives.
Right.
Just making sure they don't end up together.
He was the character that I was just like, throughout the whole book, I'm trying to understand how he thinks. Like, how did you get here?
That's a good question.
And then, but she goes, like, in the book, she goes into detail and shows kind of how he got there.
Okay.
Oh,
Goes
so we get
into
a
his
little background.
history.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it goes to the grandmother as well. And you get to learn a little bit
Okay,
more
I might
about,
revisit this then.
yeah.
Maybe we should buddy read it.
Yes, let's buddy read it together. Yes, yes.
Yes, I agree.
Let's buddy read it.
And if you still hate it, please let me know.
Okay.
We will.
Okay, next one.
I'm gonna pick a book of poetry, Border Zone by John Agard. I've never read anything from him before, but he seems to be very prolific, and I'm hoping to get to more of his stuff. But this one was just so good. Like the lyricism, the wit, the satire, the subjects that he dealt with was just absolutely out of this world. I had to reread poems. They were just so good. And they just brought me back home because you could literally hear the word as you read them, because there's just this rhythm that we have in the Caribbean and on our islands, and it's just unmatched anywhere else. And I was just so enthralled with this poetry collection that I was like, I have to read more from him, you know? So I went on to YouTube, you know, listened to some of his, you know, dubs, and I was like, this man is good. So good. So I had to put a
I'm
book of
glad
poetry on there.
that you chose a poetry collection because I am an avid poetry reader.
Oh,
But I
love
don't think
poetry.
I put any on, now that I'm thinking of it, I don't think I put any on my list.
I
I
think
do
I have
read a
one
lot of
every year
poetry.
on our list. I think I have a poetry collection on our list every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
That's kind of how I came to, I guess, be such a deep reader, I think, because I used to do poetry in primary school.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you did
You know,
the recital thing.
Yes, the recitals of poetry. And I will
What's it called?
never
JCDC.
forget JCDC, yes. Forget the first poem that I did, which was Claude McKay, I Shall Return. Ah, that poem stays with me to this day.
Yes.
And I think that's why I will forever reach for a poetry book.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, I'm going to look that one up.
Yeah.
Sure.
For me, well, Tina, you have one for me. So, but this one, I'm
Yeah.
gonna talk about Legendborn real quick.
Born.
Earlier this year, I think I read it around January last year, and I really, really enjoyed Brie. I really enjoyed the story. I like that it wasn't the normal. We're not dealing with a normal mythology, you know, no Greek gods or Roman gods or anything like that. So Arthurian legend, which you don't really see a lot of. I like that Brie was like this Black girl who was smart, who was basically infiltrating this secret society to find out more about whether or not they knew, you know, the reason behind her mother's death and the fact that she developed powers and she could push butt. But I also love the community that she developed when she was trying to find more information on her mom. I like the community that she got and the ancestral knowledge that she gained. I like that was a big part of her story, learning more about her ancestors and how it's basically through her ancestors that she has these powers. That's basically it.
I've heard really good things about that book.
Do it.
I'm
no,
doing-
you haven't read it either. She
I'm
hasn't read it
waiting
yet.
for all the books to come out because when I start a series, I don't want to wait a year to
That's
jump
true.
into the second book and then have to wait another year to jump into the third book. And
Because
like,
then you have to like refresh your mind, like, okay, what happened?
right? And you know what? It's her fault because the first complete series I ever read, like back to back, was the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin.
Yeah.
Gifted it to me for Christmas, and that was me, just from one book to the next. And I was like, this is how you need to read a series.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, this is how you need to read a series. Like, you just go from book, you know, and then it just keeps everything in the front of your mind.
Yeah.
because the next time I tried to do that with a series, it was like I had to wait for the last book to come out. So I had to go back and read the first 2 books.
Yeah.
Before I read the third one. I was like, no, it's so much better when you have everybody just one, and you just knock them down. And it's so good like that.
Yeah, especially when you read so much. So
Yep.
like books get mixed up in your head.
Yes.
And you're like, wait, what happened?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is what got me with N.K. Jemisin, The World We Make. Because
yes.
came out in what? 20?
Yeah.
20? End of 2020?
Was it 2021?
The City We Became.
But yeah, for some reason it felt really long between the both books. And I could not remember what happened in book 1.
Exactly.
And I was struggling in book 2, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna send this back. And I might have to listen to book 1 again, get my bearings, and come back to book 2 because I could not remember anything.
Especially if they're like interweaving plotline.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have a grasp from book 1 or book 2 to continue in a series.
My next book is Take My Hand by Dolan Perkins Valdez. Have you guys heard of this one?
Yes, I have that on my list to read.
So this is based on the actual events, 2 Black sisters that were sterilized. They were victims of reproductive injustice, and their parents weren't informed that they were going to be sterilized. So the book follows this nurse, and she's kind of looking back. She's now a doctor, and she's looking back to when she worked in a program that went around and sterilized young girls. I think the girls were 11 and 13, and they were part of this government program in 1973 that targeted poor Black children so they wouldn't become pregnant. And from her very first visit to the family's house, who were living in extreme poverty, they were living in like a shack that had like no running water, no nothing, right? So she was like, okay, well, they don't even hardly go to school. They don't know how to read and write. They're very poor. So they don't even have men around them. They're not sexually active. So why are we giving them these shots? So she was questioning that from the very beginning, but come to find out that they were being sterilized without their knowledge and without their parents' knowledge. And then we go into, like, the books follows kind of the trial of what happens, trying to get justice. And then they realize that this is like bigger than just Alabama. It's happening all over the US. And they're sterilizing poor Black children. And they've also sterilized, I think, Latinos. So it's like a whole thing. It is such a good book. It's so much information. It's like, I guess, like kind of like historical because it's based on what happened, but I don't think all of everything's accurate, but it's such a good book. It is really good.
I thought it was, when you said they were sterilizing them, I thought, oh, the 50s, the 40s, not 1973.
Right? It's just the other day.
Yeah, it's not that far away. I was born in the 80s, so it's not that far.
Pretty recent history.
Yes, pretty recent history, right?
Yeah.
And
but I think even, in the States, I'm not sure in Canada, but on some reservation clinics, they're still part of their thing for them to access an abortion, for them to get sterilized afterwards.
Are you serious?
I'm not sure if it's still going on, but I think up to the 90s it was happening.
Yeah, that is crazy. So this book is, I think, such a profound read because I learned so much. And then after that, you know, you start doing your research and you're like, what?
Yeah.
And I think that's where I went down the rabbit hole after I read the book. But it is an amazing read.
I've seen it all over. I think I didn't pick it up because of the subject matter.
Yeah.
Like, for this year, I knew I couldn't read a lot. So I was really intentional and I didn't want to read anything too heavy.
Yeah.
I wanted it to keep it fairly light, you know, so like some YA, some like fantasy reads, mainly romance. I didn't want to go into like any historical fiction that dealt with like really heavy things.
Yeah. I can appreciate that because sometimes it's like, oh,
yeah,
it's too much.
Too much.
Yeah.
Okay, Tamar has this one. It's by Alake Pilgrim. It's Zoe and the Forest of Secrets.
Oh shoot.
And it's middle grade. And I love middle grade. You would think I'm still a kid. I love middle grade.
I read middle grade too, actually.
I love middle grade. So this one, I was so surprised when they asked to send us an art because I'm like, yes, I mean, set in Trinidad, beloved Trinidad. It's this little girl who goes an adventure, I think, to kind of, I guess, jolt her parents into realizing that she's not okay with the current familial dynamics because her mother now has a new person in her life and a new baby. And then the father has moved further down from where they are now. So she feels as if she's no longer their priority. So she decides that she's going to go into the forest so that maybe, they'll kind of be like, oh my God, where is Zoe? Right? But instead, she ends up going on this wild adventure through the forest in Trinidad because there is this corporation who's doing some scientific research and making some questionable creatures in the forest. And so she rescues the little boy, right? And they decide that, they're going to find his parents because his parents were taken by some water creature and he wants to find them, right? And along the way, she's helped by these Anansi-ish creatures, which I totally love because anything that has to do with Anansi, I'm all over it, And then along the way, she kind of like, as she's talking to this young boy, like, kind of rethinking, like, why didn't I just say to mommy that I feel some type of way that you and daddy have split and now you have my little brother and he seems to be getting all of your time, So it's this story of, I guess, more than one journey. So it's a journey for her to like kind of make her way through this dangerous forest, but also learning that she should maybe talk about her feelings more with her parents. Mm-hmm. So I really love that. It was really well done. I mean, from start to finish, you didn't want to put it down. It was just from one action sequence to a next. And, it was just awesome. Like if I had this when I was that age, so I'm so happy that more of these books are coming out now for Black kids, especially our Caribbean kids, because they don't really get a lot of, attention when it comes to like books like these. Set in their backyards that deals with folkloric stories that they grow up on. So I'm kind of happy that Blue Banyan in Jamaica is doing a really good job at putting out middle grade books.
For sure. They're honest.
Yes, I'm going to check that one out because I read a lot of middle grade because my daughter is in middle grade and she's trying to buddy read with me. Oh, mommy, let's do a buddy read. Let's do a buddy read. So I'm always reading books with her. So I will check that one out. That sounds like something she would like for sure.
Yeah, I still haven't. I'm supposed to be reading it with Talitha. I still haven't done that. Because right now she's a mood reader. Right now she's into her Dragon series, the Wings of Fire series, and the Warrior series, which deals with cats, like in the forest and whatnot. So she's into that. Like she hasn't even touched her books from Christmas yet. Like, not about that right now. She's about finishing her Warrior series with the cats, and then she'll move on.
Yes. I know what kind of reader I am. I'm like, whatever I feel like, I pick up.
Yeah, a mood. Yeah. Totally.
Sometimes I'm a mood reader. Like sometimes I will have the books, the arcs that are coming out, and I'll be like, I'll take it up, and I'm like, I don't feel like you right now, so I'm just gonna dip into something that makes no sense, and then I'll come back to you later tonight or tomorrow. And then sometimes I literally stick to like a structure, like I pick out some books and I say you have to read these because they're coming out soon. You have to read them.
That's what I do.
Try to read them. Yeah. So I'm a mixture of mood reading and structured reading.
Yeah. Sometimes, but most I'd say 80% mood, 20% structure.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have any more books from 2022?
So I have These Impossible Things. Oh, there. Yep. Tina has a physical copy. It follows 3 friends in Britain, 3 Muslim friends, all from different like Muslim majority countries. And they're in university. Their university tenure is coming to an end. And with that, their sort of bubble that they had when they were at university from, like their families and their main communities. 2 of them are with white partners. And one is like, she's not ready to get married. So she's just playing the field a little bit, but she's still a virgin. And so the 2 with white partners have to, so it's Keys and Malak, they have to decide whether or not they're going to be continuing with their relationship after university because they know that their relationships are going to cause drama within their family and community. And so it's like them going through, working through that. One decides not to, one decides she is. And the 3 of them have a conversation at one point in time, and there is some things brought up that sort of fractures their relationship. And so Jenna is the one who is sort of like keeping their friendship together, but it's not the same as it was before their argument. And so what I loved about it is the exploration of family and friendships and community, and how wanting to have your community and your family, but also wanting to have the life that you want with the person you love, even though the person you love is not being accepted by your family and community. And then I also love the fact that it shows how women show up for each other, even when you might not be the best of friends or you're having this conflict. You show up for each other in the time of need. That happens towards the last third of the book, and they sort of come together and like sort out their issues, and their relationship sort of mends. It was a really, really good read. Really emotional in some parts. There were some heavier topics. Domestic abuse and rape were two of the content warnings I put when I put my review. But it was just really lovely.
That sounds actually like a good one. That kind of reminds me of a book that I read that I can't remember the title to right now.
Yeah. Went into it not expecting to like it as much as I did. But I really, really did.
So my last book is Honor by 30 Umagar. Honor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've seen that around.
Yeah.
So I love this book. It is one of those books that kind of stays with you forever. I'll give you the premise. So it's 2018, and this Indian journalist, Smita, returns to the country of her birth, which is India, to cover this story of Meena, a Hindu woman whose brother set fire to her home, killing her Muslim husband and disfiguring her in the process. So the book follows as Smita, the journalist, goes to this little remote town to cover her story and her trial as she tries to seek justice for what they did. It's basically an honor killing kind of scenario.
Yeah. She was Hindu and he's Muslim.
Yes. And so her brothers decided that they were going to set the house on fire, killed her husband, and kind of disfigured her. But though she lives in like a really remote town, and she's kind of seen now as an outcast. She can't work. She's just like very poor, and she lives with her mother-in-law, who kind of blames her for her son dying. And it's just a really hard life. And although she knows she's not going to win the trial, she still wants to fight this fight so that she's doing something, because she's like, this shouldn't have happened. It's not only my brother, it's the entire town and the entire way of thinking that made this happen, right? So she covers this trial, and we just learned so much about this toxic environment that made this happen. We learned so much about like how women in that part of the country have literally no power, and how just wanting to marry and be with someone that you love can get you murdered, right? So it's like one of those books that just stays with you, and it's such great writing. You felt like you were there, but it was really, really tough read at some point. But it's a really, really good book.
That does sound like a tough read, but also a good one.
I learned so much about like Muslim culture and Hindu culture, and kind of like the thinking behind why they can't get along. It was really eye-opening to me.
That does sound like an eye-opening read.
Yes, that's all for my top. For all your tops.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be greedy.
like we have to keep it short.
We have to keep it short,
Yeah, I'm not gonna be greedy.
So now let's talk about books that we can't wait to read in 2023, or that's on our radar in 2023, or that's going to be like crazy good for 2023. So who wants to start?
Okay, no, I'll start. River Mumma by Zalika Reed Benta, who wrote Frank Hampton.
Yes.
Right. So it's coming out in August. Doesn't have a cover yet, but this sounds really good. Really like the Jamaican
This one's a
culture.
novel, right?
Yeah. So it's basically what's her name? Alicia.
Mm-hmm.
It's set in Toronto. She's of Jamaican heritage. River, the spirit of River Mumma comes to her saying, "You got to go on this quest to find my comb. You know, I need it." She's like, "Why are you choosing me? I don't know nothing about this." And it's her and two other of her friends, I guess, who are basically going through the streets of Toronto trying to track down this comb as I guess duppies come and follow them and try to interfere. So this sounds like a fantasy read that I want to get to as
Yes.
soon as it comes out.
I can't wait
I
to
have I have already used my free Audible credit to pre-order it.
Oh, got it.
review.
I did.
I love it.
I did. I
Yeah.
did.
Definitely excited for this one.
I love
I want to
it.
see how it plays out. I want to see how the story, comes together. I'm excited for that.
And I love that you picked Toronto writer because they're
Yeah.
always talking about, American writers. We have to big up our Toronto writers,
Yeah, they're coming through. They're coming
right?
through. Yeah, especially in the diaspora, the Caribbean.
Yes.
Yeah, the Caribbean Toronto authors are coming through. Yeah,
Yeah.
the past few years. There's another one, honorable mention, Sweeter Sugar.
I can't
She's
remember her.
of Trinidadian descent, I think.
Yeah.
That one's coming out in, I think, March or May.
May. I think it's May.
Yeah, so it's like short stories. I started some. They're really good. Like really biting, really just current affairs, social issues. Yeah.
Yeah, we love a good short story collection.
I know. I do.
I have one on my list coming from a young Haitian author that I'm really looking forward to. So let me talk about that one. It's called You Are Watching from the Sand. Her name is Juliana Lamy. And it's coming from Red Hen Press, so not a big publisher. And sometimes those are the best ones to get books from because they don't have the resources to spread. Like, whatever they put out is going to be good.
Yeah.
So this one, it's going to focus on, people, men, women, children in Haiti. It's going to explore the varied, violent, and rich tapestry that is the island and the people. I think it's also going to incorporate some of their folklore. So I'm down for that because I like reading books that draw from Haitian spiritualism and mythology because it's just so intricate and different from, the rest of the Caribbean. Like it's just something else. So I love that. So I was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh, yes, definitely have that on my radar.
Yes, that one sounds good. So my first book that's on my radar would be Maame by Jessica George. And it comes out, I think it comes out at the end of this month.
Yes, it does. Yeah, we have the arc.
Yeah, I just finished it like maybe 2 days ago.
Okay.
I wanted to write a review before it came out.
Yeah.
So I just finished it. I think that people are going to love this book. It talks a lot about Ghanaian culture. We have Maddie, who is the main character, and she's living in London, and she's 25. She's trying to live her life, but she has so many expectations on her.
Yeah.
Her mom goes to Ghana for like a year every time she goes, which is crazy. And her dad has, what does he have again? Parkinson's. And she is the only caregiver because her brother is off doing his thing. And she kind of has like the pressure on her. We go through her trying to like find out who she is and trying to make her own way and trying to have like real authentic friendships because she's very like immature, but mature at the same time.
Yeah.
She's taking care of everything.
Yeah.
So I love this book. I think it is such a great book for like self-discovery and trying to find your own voice and find your own way with the expectations of family as well, right?
Yeah.
So that one's coming out at the end of this month.
Yeah, we actually have to.
We have the arc and we also have the audiobook from Libro.
Any more that you guys want to talk about?
There's this fantasy one, Blood Debts. Oh Lord. This is Blood Debts. So it's a fantasy, YA fantasy. So brother and sister, they're twins. They come from like a magical family in New Orleans. So I'm not quite sure of the timeline where this is set in, but it seems to be a good time. They're going to be trying to solve a mystery. Apparently they thought their mother was sick, but she was actually cursed. And so they have to find a cure like for that curse. And so it's them like tapping into their magical ancestry and trying to figure it out. So it seems like it's gonna be a good time. A little bit of a heavy, a little bit heaviness in there, but not too much. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that comes out in April.
April, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump off of that and I'm gonna talk about Black Candle Women.
Ooh, I have the arc for that too.
Yeah, because that's another magical story talking about a young girl who brings, a potential boyfriend to meet her aunts, at the house, only to be told that because of her witch ancestry, their family was cursed and anybody they fall in love with is going to die.
What?
That's a lot.
So, yes, right? So this curse apparently stems from a magical shop in 1950s New Orleans. So I'm hoping we get some time travel back to 1950s New Orleans for them to find out if they can unravel this curse. So I'm
really both deal with curses, yeah.
And I'm also looking forward to reading it because I want to see how she handles the dynamic, because it seems to be like, different generations of women. Like an aunt, a mother, a grandmother. And now, you have a niece, a daughter, a granddaughter. So I'm like, I want to see how she's going to navigate this because, it's always such a difficult thing maybe to actually
clashing,
Yeah. And for it to be done well. And that's what I want. I want it to be done well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope for that one.
That one's on my list. Hopefully I read it.
Yeah, I want to get to it at the end of this month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next one that I'm looking forward to reading that I have, like the box is looking at me, is Delicious Monsters.
Yes.
Memory. So I can't wait to read this. I'm obsessed with her. I loved Blood Like Magic, Blood Like Fate, and I'm really excited because this one's also set in Toronto. And from what I understand, it follows like a haunted house kind of situation. And there's like a whole bunch of creepy things happening. She sees a lot of ghosts all over Toronto, and she's like unprepared for it. And yes, I can't wait to read this one. Delicious Monsters.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that one too. I don't know if it's gonna be like a horror or if it's just gonna be horror adjacent. There seems to be family secrets, and I'm all about family secrets.
Always like,
yeah. When they come out,
trying to figure it out, right?
So definitely looking forward to Delicious Monsters.
Yes, I'm trying to read it this weekend because I have like 2 days to read. So hopefully I read it this weekend, but I'm excited for that.
When does it come out again?
It comes out February 28th.
Yeah.
Okay. So I gotta get to it too. So I have one more. The God of Good Looks.
Okay.
Brianne McIver. She wrote Where There Are Monsters, a collection of short stories set in Trinidad. You read that in 2019, like really early on.
Yeah, I think
started in Bookstagram.
Yeah.
But we love Brianne. That collection of stories was good.
So good.
I liked how she divided it into actual like monsters, meaning like, the creatures from folklore that are, scary and whatnot. And then monsters in the sense that we as human beings can do monstrous things. I like that. And then this one it might be a little messy, but it follows Bianca. She is an aspiring writer, I guess, and she was having an affair with a government minister, and it got exposed, and now she's sort of like a pariah in Trinidad, and she's trying to find some work, and somebody hires her, and it's like I guess she, through that new job, she gains a new perspective on life and new friendships and all that, maybe love. So we're gonna see, but I'm excited for that one because Brianne is like really good.
That one sounds juicy.
Yeah.
It does.
Brianne's a really good writer, and she's so sweet too.
Yes. Okay, my next one that I'm looking forward to is by the one and only Maryse Condé, The Gospel According to the New World. I think for the past 3 years, I've read a Maryse Condé every year. one Maurice Condé. So this will be my Maurice Condé for this year. So this one, a child is born, and it is said that he is the son of God.
Say what now?
Yeah, it is said that he's the son of God. And as he's growing up, certain things start happening around him that tend to push evidence towards the fact that he actually is God's child. So he grows up, and because he's grown up hearing this, right, he might not have, the confidence or the belief that he actually is. So he sets out on his own journey to find out his origins, to see if he really is who his people have been telling him that he is. So I'm interested to see how she's going to handle this one. I know that with Maurice Condé, it's always something, like, he's always bringing something to whatever book that she's writing. Like, I have not yet been disappointed by any of her books that I've read so far. So I know that I'm going to be in for something good with this one.
Yeah, this one going to be interesting for sure.
Yes. And this premise?
Yeah, it's a premise.
Yeah.
It's a premise.
Yeah. So definitely that one.
I would actually read that one. I'm curious to see where she takes it.
Yeah, for sure.
The next one on my list is Colson Whitehead's new crime novel, Crook Manifesto, and this comes out in July. And this one picks up where, if you read Harlem Shuffle, where that left off. No. So it's in like the 1970s Harlem. Former fence fighter turned furniture store owner Ray Cardney is trying to lay low as crime skyrockets around the city. But when he needs a little help getting the Jackson 5 tickets for his daughter, Ray finds himself falling back into like the old habits he had in Harlem Shuffle. And yes.
Okay.
Like, I'll probably read anything that Colson Whitehead writes.
Okay.
I just read
Confession time. I've never read anything by Colson.
No, we haven't.
I'm looking at a book right now. John
Which
Henry
one?
Days right on that shelf. I've had that book for 4 years. I have not yet read it.
So he's such a good writer.
He's on the list. He is on the list. Like, I was looking at a book that I have, titles written down in that I want to read. So of course there's Toni Morrison there, and it says like all her books, which I have scattered all over this shelf here. And then it also says Colson Whitehead, all his books. So I do have every intention of reading something.
Reading it. I will. Just
the time will come.
That's what we tell ourselves. The time will come.
But you know what? I think I need to check and see if Libby has his stuff on audio. Because audio has been saving my life this past.
I think so. Yeah.
Last year.
I don't feel like you should necessarily start with the Underground Railroad, because like you don't necessarily need to read the Underground Railroad, even though it's a very good book.
Yeah.
But like some people are like, okay, I've had enough of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But The Nickel Boys is really good.
Okay. I was interested in Harlem Shuffle. It's just that, time.
It's time, yeah. We have way too many books to read.
Yeah.
And not enough time. Yeah, that was all over Bookstagram, I think, when we started it.
Harlem Shuffle or Nickel Boys?
Nickel Boys.
Yeah,
Yes.
Nickel Boys.
Yeah, I think that was
Nickel Boys is really good. I enjoyed it. And that's kind of historical fiction as well, because it's based on something that happened.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Whitehead is on the list. And so is Mr. Jason Reynolds. And I think for some reason I've been a little intentional in reading a lot more women.
Yes. That's fine.
From our favorites list, like I only had one guy.
Really?
The rest are women. Yes.
Was it the poetry book?
Yep.
Oh, and then Aiden. Oh, Aiden.
Oh, you
Cemetery Boys.
Oh my gosh. Now I'm gonna have to check if I had any. I don't think I did.
Yeah, so, and it's the same thing for the books that I'm looking for. Of the 4, it's only one dude.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Only
okay.
one guy.
Men have had their time.
Sorry, boys. Sorry, man.
I mean, yeah. It's nothing against you. It's just,
Sorry.
what catches our eye right now.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, do we have any more?
Yeah.
I don't.
You don't?
I don't have any
You
more.
were supposed to talk about Miss Beatrice Porter. we've been dying to read this one.
You talk about it for the both of us.
Beatrice Porter and Other Essential Ghosts. She is Jamaican Trini. So this one, she's gonna be pulling from our folklore as well. Rolling Calf, Mama Dlo, that's from Trini folklore. A Vain Tiger, and then Outsmarted Snake. Now, this is about two sisters, Zora and Sasha, and they're drifting apart. Their father is violent, and their mother has an illness, and it seems to be getting worse. So Zora escapes into her journal, dreaming of being a writer, while Sasha discovers sex and chest binding, spending more time with her new girlfriend than at home. So I want to see where she's going to take this.
Because that's a lot of issues right there. That's a lot of societal things happening and folklore. So yeah.
So really looking forward to this one. And Read Caribbean again. Awesome.
It's coming out at the end of this month?
No, it's coming out in March.
March.
Yeah. And then the last one that I have to talk about is The Saint of Bright Doors.
Oh, I've seen this
one. This one is going to be fantasy. The premise seems awesome. A city of doors that can't be opened.
Oh.
Yeah. So nobody knows where they lead. Then you have researchers and scientists, of course, who obviously want to find out what's behind the doors. And then you have the more religiously inclined who leave offering at the doors, hoping that there is some deity behind the doors. Apparently, there are only a few unchosen that can open these doors.
Okay, then.
So our character is a young man who was raised to become an assassin.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So I think his mother raised him to kill his father. Yeah. She took his shadow from him, right? Yeah, she took his shadow. But as he grows up, I think there is some kind of rift between him and his mother, because now he's off on his own, shadowless, and he's not bound to gravity. And yes, he becomes one of the unchosen who can potentially...
There's a lot going on in this book.
There is a lot.
A lot.
So
what's happening there?
I want to see where this is going to go.
I'm intrigued.
I want to know if we're going to be getting parallel universes, or if it's going to be a multiverse, or if it's just going to be one world and then the door just takes you to different parts in this world. So I am really looking forward.
That one sounds interesting.
And that's my only guy writer. And I literally just found that out yesterday that he was a dude. I did not know anything about the author. I found out yesterday that it was a guy. I was like, oh,
right.
Yes.
One.
Well, that is it. I think we did it. We got through some great books. Thank you, guys. So what are we reading next?
Wow.
You have about 20 books on the go right now.
I
On
do.
the go?
I have about 10 books on the go.
Yeah, she reads
a massive poly reader.
I don't do that. If I can help it, I don't do it. I have to. Sometimes I'll start one, but then I'll be like, no, I'll start you, but I need to finish what I'm reading.
Oh, no. I poly read as well, but I don't poly read as many as...
I do take breaks from them sometimes. Sometimes 2 or more of the books out of the 8 or 9 or 10 that I'm reading will pull me more, and then I'll focus on those, and then I'll come back to the others. So right now, I'm reading a collection of short stories that's coming out in March. It's called Drinking from Graveyard Wells.
All right, that one,
and it's by Yvette Lisa Ndlovu. She is Zimbabwean, coming out again from a university press. And I first read her story in Voodoo Knots, which was such an amazing collection. And then another story in Africa Risen. And when I read those 2 stories, I was like, okay, I need to see if this lady has anything else out there, because these stories are awesome. So I go dig in, find out that she has a debut collection coming out. I'm like, I need this in my life. So I reach out to the publicist and I'm like, okay, so I found her 2 stories in these 2 anthologies, and I'm like really excited to see what's gonna happen. And so they're like, oh sure, and they sent me an arc, and I'm so happy because the stories slap so hard.
I saw that excerpt you posted yesterday with the ants, and I'm like,
Yes.
what is happening?
Yes, they're so good. And so it's woman centric, and she's focusing on, you know, all the difficulties, all the expectations, you know, that can fall on women in the society, in their families.
Mhm.
So she deals with, you know, married women, old women, young girls, daughters, sisters, mothers, grandmothers, and it's just great. Like, I want everybody to read this book.
Everyone read it.
It's so good. I can't stop talking about it. What else am I reading? I'm reading
a lot.
Reversing Me Home. I started Reversing Me Home
Reversing
by
Me
Eleanor
Home.
Scher. And that is
Is
really,
she
it's really-
Trini or Bayesian?
I'm gonna lean more to Bayesian.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't expect it to be so easy to read, but it's very easy to read.
That's
Very, yeah. Nothing to like traumatize me or anything like that, which is good. Because, you know, obviously we know our history of slavery in the Caribbean. We know how brutal it was, so we don't need her to splash it on the pages.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
glad that, you know, she doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Or maybe this is just me, but like I feel like I want more dialect. I want the dialect to be more like strong,
Front and center.
like, or it's just me, and because we actually have syntax and stuff, and liking how it's flowing when it's written. So I'm like,
Oh, okay.
maybe, you know, because like that's not what we would say. Like, me no want it instead of we don't want it. Like,
Okay, so they're
Like,
mixing
so-
like the English.
I hate
and,
that
yeah,
sometimes
okay, got
when
it.
I see that. Yeah.
yeah. So that's just me. Like when I'm reading the patois, I want it to be patois.
Yeah.
Me want to talk it like how me talk it. So I want it on the page like that. But
Yeah.
It's not a mix up.
but it's really good.
I'm reading Love in Color. Yeah.
So good.
And then The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chuck. I started that 2 days ago.
Right now, I'm reading Kindred by Octavia Butler because I've
Mm.
never read it.
Oh yes.
So I'm like probably halfway through that. My book club is reading it this month. So I'm like, okay, let me just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
And I feel like, oh my gosh, why have I never read this before? It's so good. I'm like loving it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen, are you going to watch the series?
Yeah, I'll watch it after book
Mhm.
club.
For our book club, I think we're doing, it's Before I Let Go, we're reading. So I might have to just, just skim through it a little bit because I've probably forgotten some stuff. And that's at the end. So I'll start that maybe the end of next week.
Yeah.
'Cause I want it like fresh.
Be fresh, yes.
Just taking it one day at a time. Tina has a more structured reading schedule than I do. Like I am, as Browning with the books, it's just vibes at this point in time. Like I try to like have a structured reading time, but it's chaos in my house.
Yes.
You know what I want to talk about? I started reading The 7 Moons of Mali Almeida. I didn't expect to love it as much as I am.
Okay.
It has on audio.
Okay.
So it has this undercurrent, I'd say like really dark humor. And I really like that. So yeah, and especially when we're dealing with heavy topics like civil war in a country, ethnic cleansing, like I need something to take the edge off.
Mm-hmm.
So the dark humor really helps.
Yeah. Otherwise, it can really.
See why it won the Booker. I can see why it won the Booker.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
I don't really follow the book prizes. Like,
I do sometimes.
I see it when I'm
do,
scrolling,
yeah.
but I'm like, I shout out to all the people who read like all the books on the like long list and the short list, but that's not
the long list, but maybe the short list.
Yeah, I'm
No,
not
there's dedicated people out there who do the long list and the short. Like,
Yeah.
no.
Daryl does that every year, and I'm like, you're good, sir.
I love that for you.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I love that for you, but that's not me. Yes, not my ministry right now. No, my ministry is trying to just finish the books that I have. I'm trying to post the reviews.
Finish the ones I have.
And try not to ask for any more, but that never works.
I know NetGalley's crack. NetGalley's so crack, and it's even worse now because they have the audiobooks that you can request.
Yes.
And I'm like, really? Do I really need to do this?
Yes.
Like, especially when it's like coming out in like 2 weeks, and you request it, and then they're like sending it to you in a couple of days, and you're like, that's not gonna happen.
Well, then that's their fault, because if you request it like 2 to 3 weeks to a month before, and then they send it to you the week before it comes out. You're like,
That's
okay,
sorry, that's
no.
not happening. No.
Yeah.
So that's gonna get pushed back because I asked you for this like a month ago. Why am I just getting it now?
No, sorry, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
You may or you may not get the review. Sorry.
exactly.
Well, thank you guys so very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. It was fun.
You guys are invited back anytime you want.
Of course.
All the time, and it's better to talk with people than by myself. So thank you so much for coming. And yeah, that's the end of the show.